and gentlemen, thank you for joining me for this Relentless Rundown. We're going to go over one of the biggest games in the Sunday morning slates in the Baltimore Ravens and the Cincinnati Bengals. These two were fighting for AFC North supremacy. The Bengals coming off of a big 34-11 win against the Lions, whereas the Ravens absolutely dominated the 4-1 Chargers last week, 34-6. I was very interested to see how the power struggle would break up between these two teams. In this video, we're going to talk about each team as a whole, and then we're going to circle back and go over some of the key turning points, the momentum shifters, and where this changed overall. If you are new to the channel or you haven't done it yet, please like and subscribe. It really helps me out, enables me to do what I love so I can keep bringing you the content that you love. If you have any questions, if you disagree with one of my takes, drop that down below. I would love to engage with you. And with that all the way, let's get into this Relentless Rundown. We'll start with the Baltimore Ravens, the home team, and for me they just didn't look very good offensively for most of this game, especially on the ground. They attempted just 12 rushes that weren't from Lamar Jackson, which for me is unacceptable. That is clearly where you are most talented and have the advantage, and to not lean on that, it just caused them issues. It really made them rely so heavily on Lamar Jackson. He had to do everything for this offense, and it was just too tall of a task for him. He finished completing less than 50% of his passes. He was just 15 out of 31 for 257. And that's not going to cut it when you're facing a team like the Bengals who continued to put up points. He was able to add 88 yards on the ground, but overall the play calling was just poor, and there were some questionable decisions that were made as well that ultimately cost the Ravens here. As we move to the defense, they actually held up really good in the first half. They looked solid, but after that they absolutely imploded. They were gashed for huge plays consistently that led to long touchdowns for the Bengals. The Bengals' 5 touchdowns were from 55, 32, 82, 21, and 46 yards out. And when you're giving up those monster gainers, it is never going to bode well. It was a combination of poor tackling and just overall lack of communication, especially in the secondary, that led to the Ravens giving up 4 touchdowns in 5 possessions in the second half for Cincinnati. The one possession where they didn't score a touchdown, the Bengals still got to the red zone and Joe Burrow threw a pick. So it's not like they were stopping them even then. It looked a lot like the defense we saw in week 1 that got lit up by the Las Vegas Raiders, and it's going to be something that they need to look into as their bye week comes up. As a team overall, Baltimore played pretty poorly, which is something this team has honestly done before. They nearly and probably should have lost to the Lions, saying that 67-yard bomb by Tucker saved them. And they played pretty poorly against a struggling Colts team who is improving now. They also had a couple questionable decisions that I just don't quite get. They gave up an opportunity for a field goal. Now, I get it was a long one from about 57 yards out, but you have Justin Tucker. You gotta give the guy a chance. It would have gave him a lead before halftime, and then they go for it on 4th down and 7 from their own 38. There was still about 10 minutes to go, 11 minutes to go in this game. They were only down by 10, so even giving up a field goal, it could have been a 2-possession game. They decided to go for it there. They fail, and that basically sealed that game with a lot of time left to play. But the way that their offense was struggling, I just couldn't understand them going for it. Now, their defense was playing really poorly, and so that might have been the reason that they just felt like they weren't going to be able to get the ball back. But if that's the case, you're probably not an elite team if you can't trust your defense to get off the field. I think this is a perfect week for them to get a bye so they can reevaluate both what they're doing offensively and defensively. Now, thankfully, they get some great matchups coming out of it. 3 winnable games in a row against Minnesota, Miami, and Chicago. So they should still be 8-2 heading into a primetime AFC North clash with Cleveland. Baltimore is going to threaten this division. They're going to be fine there, but the Bengals made it clear that they're the team to beat in this division. On the Bengals side of things, they were definitely slow to start offensively, but once they got going, they looked unstoppable. Joe Burrow was able to get comfortable in the pocket. He had plenty of time to deliver strikes downfield and make the Ravens defense pay. They just didn't look like they had an answer. He threw for over 400 yards and 3 touchdowns. The offensive line played amazing. Up front, they only gave up 1 sack to Baltimore on the day, and then they also relied on that running game some. So they took that pressure off of Burrow. They split carries between Joe Mixon and Samaje Perine, which kept them fresh. And then late in the game, they were able to use that to their advantage and break off a couple long touchdown runs to put this one away. Finally, Ja'Marr Chase is special. He is a dynamic player in the open field. He showcased that with that 82-yard touchdown where he caught and spun around, dodging 3 defenders on the way to the end zone. He continues to be better than advertised, which is really hard when you consider he was a top 5 pick. Now let's move to the defensive end for Cincinnati, and they played excellent defense as a team. They rallied to the ball really well, and they kept Lamar Jackson contained. They didn't allow him to get out into open field so that he could beat them over the top with big plays. They were also able to rack up 5 sacks, which kept the Ravens behind the sticks and out of what they wanted to do. Overall, this was just an absolutely amazing performance and a statement game from Cincinnati. I came away really impressed with what they were able to do overall, especially in a tough environment in Baltimore with so much at stake. And then you consider that this Baltimore team is the one that had been dominating Cincinnati for the last couple of years. It sure didn't look like it on Sunday. The only issue I see with Cincinnati is they can also go out and lose to teams like Chicago. And they barely escaped the Jaguars on Thursday night a couple weeks ago. So that gives me pause to put them up in the upper echelon just because of that consistency. The next 2 weeks that they have are going to be crucial. Next week, we're not worried about it. They're going to absolutely slaughter the Jets. But then they have the Browns after that, which is going to be a big one. I think they can get to 7-2 going into their bye. And then it's all about how they finish. Right now, I think Cincinnati is a top 3 team in the AFC, trailing only the Bills and the Titans. Let's now move to some of the key turning points and where the momentum shifted in this game. We're going to start late in the second quarter. There's about 7 minutes to play, and we're tied up at 3. Baltimore has the ball in good field position. They have been able to push the ball downfield a little bit, and Lamar Jackson has been able to run free and pick up yardage there as well. Now they're pushing to take the lead and get sacked not once, but twice, pushing them to 3rd and very long. They complete a pass and are able to get into field goal range to an extent. It would be about a 57-yarder for Justin Tucker. Now, I'm no genius, but if you can make a 67-yarder, you could probably make a 57-yarder. Harbaugh instead decides to punt the ball away. He leaves the points. And for me, in a tough matchup, when you are going back and forth, no one's really able to put up points. All of them are crucial. I would have loved to see a field goal opportunity there for Justin Tucker. There was a slight breeze, but when you have the best player at his position in the world, you give him the opportunity. I'll point out that Justin Tucker looked pretty disappointed when they showed him on the sideline not getting his chance, and they didn't have that opportunity to take their first lead of the game. We now move to the beginning of the second half, and the Ravens would start with the ball, and they'd come out firing. They did a 30-yard pass to the rookie out of Minnesota, Rashad Bateman, and then a 39-yard bomb over the top to Hollywood Brown, who made an amazing stretching grab, gives the Ravens their first lead at 17-13, just a minute and a half in to the third quarter. Very next possession, Cincinnati starts breaking out some chunk plays, a couple of them to Ja'Marr Chase, and then this is when the defensive breakdown started to happen for the Ravens. CJ Uzomah is open down the middle of the field. It was a complete breakdown in the secondary. They had 4 defenders actually move to the flat. No one followed the go route from the tight end, and he is able to scamper into the end zone basically untouched. Bengals are able to regain the lead, but I think more importantly, it was super discouraging to see that the very first defensive possession that you have such a critical error, and it all came down to communication. We jump forward after the Ravens are unable to do anything on their possession, and it's 3rd down and 2, right? We have a 3-point game and a chance for the Ravens to get the ball back. However, on the 3rd and 2, Jamar Chase catches a slant over the middle and then puts the entire Ravens defense in a dishwasher, spins around, and is able to break free from 3 tackles. So once again, we have a poor defensive play by the Ravens leading to a touchdown. It's 14 unanswered points from Cincinnati, and it came from poor tackling and communication on the defensive side of the ball. You just have to be able to rally better and help out your teammates. Chase is way too dangerous and dynamic in the open field to be given that much space, and you gotta wrap him up. They did not do that, and that would be the beginning of their downfall. The last play that I really want to look at came late in the 4th quarter, about 11 minutes to go in this game. The Ravens are able to convert a 4th down and 1, courtesy of Lamar Jackson with a 12-yard scamper. Now they face a possession where they have to get points because they're already down 27-17 at this point, and time is winding down. Lamar Jackson breaks off a 50-yard run, the first time he was really able to get out into open space and really hurt the defense. However, a big holding call takes them all the way back into their own territory where they would face a 4th down and 7. They're at their own 38-yard line. There's about 11:30 to go in the game. And with the way that the offense was playing, the inconsistency in the passing game in particular, I don't really understand the call to go for it. I think that it was such a case of them not being able to trust their defense and to be able to get a stop that they felt inclined that if they didn't go for it and get it, they were probably going to give up another touchdown. The game would be over anyway. I still didn't like the call. They would come up short on the conversion, and that would basically be it. That holding call would really end up being the nail in the coffin for this team. Cincinnati would add a couple long touchdown runs late to make this look like more of a blowout than it really was. A lot of really big plays in this game. It was a ton of fun to watch. I hope you guys got to enjoy it as well. And that's it. Thank you guys so much for joining me for this rundown. If you have any questions, if you disagree with any of my takes, drop them down below. I would love to engage with you. This is Relentless Press. I am your host, Abraham Opatz, and we'll see you next time.